In the previous section, we established that ethical decision-making is the foundation of risk management in real estate. Now, we take that concept one step further by applying it to the framework that governs Realtor R conduct, the Code of Ethics. When agents are faced with difficult decisions involving environmental hazards, predatory lending, disclosure issues, or complex negotiations, the Code of Ethics becomes the practical guide that directs their actions. This transition is critical because knowing what is right is not always obvious in real estate. Transactions are filled with gray areas, competing interests, and pressure to perform. The code provides structure in those moments, ensuring that agents remain consistent, compliant, and client-focused. Article 1. The core of ethical decision-making. At the center of both risk management and ethical practice is Article 1, which requires realtors to protect and promote the interests of their client. This is not just a guideline, it is the cornerstone of professional conduct. However, as discussed in the prior section, ethical decision-making is about balance. While agents must advocate for their client, they must also treat all parties honestly. This dual obligation is where many real-world challenges arise. For example, consider a transaction involving a financially distressed seller who may be facing foreclosure or dealing with the effects of a predatory loan. The agent's responsibility is not to rush the transaction to close, but to ensure the client understands their options, risks, and long-term consequences. This reflects both Article 1 and AAC, R4-28-1101, reinforcing the duty of reasonable care and client advocacy. Honesty in complex situations. Building on our earlier discussions of disclosure and risk, honesty is not limited to avoiding false statements. It includes avoiding misleading behavior. In practice, this means agents must be transparent in how they present information, particularly in high-pressure situations such as multiple offers or distressed sales. Misrepresenting the existence of competing offers or failing to clarify negotiation strategies can create ethical violations, even if the intent was to benefit the client. This ties directly to Arizona case law such as Hill v. Jones, 1986, where failure to disclose a material fact resulted in liability. The lesson remains consistent. When in doubt, disclose and document. Competency and knowing. When to step back. Another key connection to the previous section is the concept of recognizing limitations. Ethical decision-making includes understanding when a situation exceeds your expertise. Article 11 reinforces that realtors must not provide services outside their field of competence unless they fully disclose their limitations or seek assistance from qualified professionals. This is especially relevant in transactions involving mold, structural concerns, or complex financing structures. As discussed earlier, agents are not inspectors, contractors, or lenders, but they are responsible for identifying red flags and guiding clients toward appropriate experts. Example: if a property shows signs of water intrusion and potential mold, the ethical response is not to minimize the issue, but to recommend further inspection and ensure the client understands the potential risks. Communication as ethical practice. In the previous section, we identified communication as one of the most powerful tools for risk management. Here we see that communication is also a core ethical obligation. Many ethics complaints arise not from intentional wrongdoing, but from lack of responsiveness or poor communication. Clients who feel informed and supported are far less likely to file complaints, even in difficult transactions. For example, in a short sale or distressed transaction, delays are common. An agent who proactively communicates these delays and manages expectations is fulfilling both an ethical and professional duty. Navigating multiple offer scenarios. Multiple offer situations provide one of the clearest examples of how ethical decision-making and the Code of Ethics intersect. As outlined under Standard of Practice 1-6, agents must present offers and counter-offers objectively and as quickly as possible. However, the complexity lies in balancing honesty with client advocacy. Sellers may choose different strategies, accepting the strongest offer, inviting highest and best, or negotiating selectively. The agent's role is not to make the decision, but to guide the client, explain the options, and ensure that all actions remain ethical and transparent. Avoiding common ethical pitfalls. When we tie everything together, most ethical violations fall into predictable categories. These include failure to communicate, failure to protect the client's financial interests, misrepresentation, and lack of competency. Each of these issues directly connects to earlier sections of this course. Environmental issues require disclosure. Financing risks require explanation. Transaction complexities require guidance. The consistent pattern is this: problems arise when agents fail to act, fail to communicate, or fail to seek help. The golden rule as a final filter. At the highest level, the Code of Ethics simplifies into one guiding principle, the golden rule. Treat others the way you would want to be treated. When faced with uncertainty, this principle provides clarity. If a decision feels questionable, viewing it from the perspective of the client, the other party, or even a regulatory body can help determine the appropriate course of action. The role of the broker in ethical decision-making. As emphasized in the prior section, agents are not expected to navigate these situations alone. Under AAC R4 28-1103B, brokers are responsible for supervision and ensuring compliance. This makes the broker a critical resource when ethical questions arise. Seeking guidance is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of professionalism and risk awareness. Connecting the dots. At this point, the full picture comes into focus. Environmental issues like mold create disclosure obligations. Predatory lending creates financial risk. Transaction complexity creates pressure. The Code of Ethics is what ties all of these together, providing a consistent framework for how agents should act in every situation. As we move forward, the final step is application, seeing how these principles play out in real-world scenarios where multiple risks, competing interests, and ethical challenges all exist at the same time. Online discussion. How does the Code of Ethics support the concept of risk management discussed in the previous section? Answer. It provides a structured framework for how agents should act when risks are identified, ensuring decisions are ethical, transparent, and client-focused. Why is honesty required even when it may not benefit your client's position? Answer. Because ethical obligations require fair treatment of all parties, and misleading conduct can result in legal and professional consequences. How does recognizing your limitations improve client outcomes? Answer. It ensures that clients receive accurate information and guidance from qualified professionals, reducing risk and liability.